People versus Pursehouse. The witness has to be taken to stand. Just a reminder that you're still under oath. All right. Very good. You were examining?
Yes, sir.
TV's on.
All right. Mr. Herman, well, they're working on the TV. We left off where you heard something woke you up. Can you, just so we could go back in time, what woke you up?
A sound that I thought was a glass plate hitting the floor or breaking when it hit the floor.
And then the second time you woke up, what woke you up?
Amie screaming.
And how loud were her screams?
They were very loud.
And about how much time from the time you heard that glass breaking earlier on, about how much time passed to when you heard her screaming? Approximately.
I mean, probably around 4 hours, I'm guessing. I'm not guessing, I'm estimating.
So you hear the glass break at some point, and about 4 hours later, you hear her screaming.
Yes.
And could you tell what she was screaming?
It was just blood curdling, just screams. Like, yeah.
And so that woke you up.
Yes.
And so when, as you wake up, do you continue to hear the screaming?
Yes.
And where are you when you wake up?
On the couch in my bedroom.
Looking here at people's number 19C, is the window to the right of this photograph, is that part of your bedroom?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Looking at photograph D of this exhibit. Can you tell us what it's showing here?
It's showing my bedroom.
Okay, does it show the location where you were sleeping?
It does.
And where would that be?
That would be on the couch in the left corner. The
And
photo.
is that over here where you see some pillows and like a gray
Yep.
blanket or something?
Correct.
So you wake up, and as you wake up, do you continue to hear screaming?
Yes.
And what do you do at that point?
Takes me a minute. Kind of wake up and I really thought she saw a mouse or something, and I gradually get to the door and I realize it's not stopping, and I yell up to her.
Now, when you say I get to the door, what door are you talking about?
The door to my bedroom at the base of the stairs.
So here on photograph people's exhibit number 19C, you see what appears to be a door open, and there appears to be a small hallway and then a staircase that leads up. Is that correct?
Yes.
So did you get to that area?
Yes.
And would your door be to the right of that?
Yes.
So as you walk to that little passageway in front of those stairs that lead up, is she still screaming?
Yes.
Are the screams the same or different?
They're the same the whole time.
Is it constant?
It was constant. Yes.
And do you hear anything else other than screaming?
No.
Could you make out any voices?
No.
So what happens as you're standing there in that little passageway in front of those stairs?
I yell her name.
And you already yelled it, and what the words that you used were what?
Amie.
And you yelled it in the tone of voice you did yesterday?
Yeah, but louder.
Even louder than what you yelled here in court.
Oh yeah.
Why would you say that?
Just because I don't think I've ever heard myself yell like that before.
How were you feeling in that moment when you're yelling out her name?
It's really hard to describe. It was really like shock, adrenaline rush, kind of can't believe this is really happening, kind of.
And so after you, when you yell out Amie, is Amie still screaming?
She is when I yell it out.
And how about after you yell it out? What happens? After you yell out her name, what happens?
I hear what sounded like two people hitting the floor, like somebody taking somebody else down.
Can you object to this cause for speculation? Can you describe the sound?
Well, he said it sounded like if two people were hitting the floor. Is that what you said? Is that
Like
what you-
somebody, yes, like when somebody takes another person down.
Okay, I'll allow it. That's what it sounded to you like that.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what it sounded to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you hear that sound of, it sounds like someone was taken down, do you hear screaming at the same time?
That's around the time I hear it get muffled.
What does that mean around that time it gets muffled?
It sounded like her mouth was being covered.
And why would you say that?
Like honor cause for speculation.
Well, I'm not so sure that her or whatever, but when you say his next question was, and I'll reserve my ruling. Why would you say that? What makes you conclude that it sounded like someone's mouth was being covered?
Because it was like the sound of somebody screaming and then screaming through something, like the level of the sound changed as if what it would sound exactly like if you put my hand over my mouth. You know.
I'll allow it to stand.
Okay. So that's how it sounded to you,
Yeah.
as if someone was covering her mouth.
Yes.
And so at that point, did you hear any more screaming from Amie?
On and off.
Was the screaming as loud as before, or was it different?
It was different.
How so?
It was sounded like it was being muffled.
And so for how long did that go on where she sounds like she's being muffled to you?
It's hard for me to remember exact times because, yeah.
What would be your best estimate? Just, was it seconds? Was it a minute? If you even know.
Well, she got choked, or I heard choking also for a minute.
Objection, Your Honor, cause for speculation.
That part of the court was the same.
Well, you
Motion to strike.
Sure.
were not up there, were you?
No.
All right.
The jury's to disregard.
They know that whenever I strike something, you're to disregard it, not consider it. Okay.
Could
Told
you-
that before.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you see what was happening up there?
No, I couldn't.
Could you see what was being done to Amie up there?
No.
So can you tell us what you heard
Yes.
as far as sounds? So what else did you hear?
I heard her choking.
Objection, Your Honor. Again, cause for speculation.
Okay, sustain as phrased. Now, if he heard what sounded like someone was choking, that's different.
When you say, what exactly do you mean when you say like that she was she sounded like she was choking? What do you mean by that?
Objection, that the state.
Well, again,
Misleading.
overruled. You said, did it sound like someone was choking?
It did. It sounded like someone coughing strenuously.
Okay, so with respect to her choking and so forth, I would sustain it with respect to that. I'll leave it as the way you characterized it now.
Right.
Go ahead.
So you said it sounded like someone was coughing, or like
Yes,
she was
yes.
like she was coughing.
Yes.
So at that point, she's no longer screaming.
Right.
And how long does that go on where it sounds like she's coughing?
That ended pretty quickly. And that actually might have been the point where I started hearing her screams and stuff get muffled.
And where were you when you're hearing all this? Bless you.
I'm still in the doorway of my bedroom.
Are you here looking at photograph C of 19? Are you right here on the little hallway landing? Are you on the step? Are you outside of the door towards the patio?
I'm standing like in the door frame, looking up.
I'm going to object as vague as to which door frame.
All right, let's clear that up.
When you say, which door frame are you talking about?
The door frame to my bedroom, it would be on the right through this picture.
Okay, so you're even more inside. You're by this little hallway next to the stairs.
Yes.
Do you say or do anything at this point when you're hearing what sounds to you like Amy's choking?
That's when I started looking for my phone.
What do you say anything or do anything else?
I spend probably the next 4 or 5 minutes jockeying between my bed and the doorway, trying to hear if I can hear what's going on, if anybody's coming, and while jockeying back, looking for my phone, just back and forth.
Now, when you say 4 to 5 minutes, is that your time estimate?
That's an estimate.
You got to let me finish.
Sorry.
Is that the time estimate in your brain that you think that's how long it all took?
Yeah.
Do you ever yell anything else to either Amie or the person or whoever is up there with her?
Before I leave.
And what is it that you yell?
Hey, motherfucker.
Well, can you yell it the same way you yelled it that morning?
Probably not, but I can try. I
Go
can
ahead.
yell it. Hey, motherfucker.
And why did you yell that?
In my head, I planned to run out and try and get help because I couldn't find my phone. And I thought that maybe it would just be a distraction, that he would be worried about me in the house. And I hoped to quietly go out, that he would still be, that he would leave her alone, be more worried about me, was what was going on in my head.
I'm going to object to the characterization as he. Mr. Herman did not see anybody.
It's a statement.
Okay. Well, can the answer stand, or does the court want me to ask that again?
What you ask it?
Okay. All right. Without indicating whether it's a he or a she up there that's doing this to Amie, just a person. What did you believe by yelling, "Hey, motherfucker"? What did you believe would cause? What did you believe would happen if you said that?
I thought it would distract him,
Well,
or
say-
the person from her that I believed was in there.
And did you have any weapon on you at this point?
No,
Did you have any weapons in your room?
I had some small knives.
And in that moment, were you able to grab any of those knives?
I debated it
Why didn't you run upstairs to help Amie?
because I mean, you want me to really go through why? I mean, it was a whole thought process.
Yes. Why didn't you go
Okay.
up there and help Amie?
Your Honor, this calls for a narrative.
You can answer that.
Okay. I really thought that somebody needed to know. My plan was to have the cops on the phone and walk up there with the phone on speaker. And I was worried. I'd had sciatica recently, and I just knew I wasn't in fighting shape.
What is sciatica?
It's where you have a pinched nerve and can't stand up. I mean, I got pulled out of a hotel room on a stretcher.
So why else didn't you go and run up there to help her?
I really was worried that if both of us were going to end up dead, and that nobody would know.
Why did you think you would end up dead?
I just didn't know what I was facing. I assumed somebody, whoever was going through all that trouble. I grew up in gun culture. I couldn't imagine somebody.
This is, you know, just open.
So overruled. It's going to his thought process as to why he did not go. Aside from being not in shape, you felt that if you went up there, that you would also die or be hurt.
Yes,
Okay.
Can you complete your answer as to why you thought you would also be killed if you went up there?
I couldn't imagine anyone going through that without having a gun. I couldn't picture it.
So that was in your head.
Yes.
And did you have any gun on you?
No.
And after you yelled that statement of, what was the language exactly that you used?
Hey, motherfucker.
Hey, motherfucker. What happened? Did anything happen when you said that? Upstairs, I'm talking. Could you hear whether anything happened upstairs when you said that?
I couldn't hear anything.
Could you hear her screaming when you said that?
That's an answer.
Overruled. Not at the point where he said that. So that's a different question.
Intermittently.
Huh?
Intermittently.
So
But it was, not as much then. It got really quiet, which was really like creepy. Like also,
you keep putting your hand on your face. Is there a reason for that?
no.
Are you nervous?
It just itches and nervous, yeah.
Were you scared at that moment?
Oh, it was like a mix of adrenaline and fear. It's really hard to describe what I was feeling.
So after you yell, hey, motherfucker, what happens?
I'd go out the back door and close it.
And when you say the back door, is that what's shown here on people's 19C?
Yes.
Can you tell us, where do you go?
I run around. If you're facing the back of the house, what would be the right of the house?
So let me see, if I point, would that be where I'm pointing my finger here on this exhibit, which would be, if you're looking at this photograph, the right of the house?
Yes.
And what is there in that location to the right of the house?
Like a alleyway.
So like a passageway in the home?
Yeah. Not in the home, but around the home.
And where does that lead to?
The front of the house.
And what's in the front of the house?
Like a front patio.
Looking at people's exhibit number 18. This is just a 3D, just for reference, okay? With the patio on this photograph, if you're looking at it, this is a facing from the street, looking straight at the front of the house, correct?
Yes.
And over here to the left, is that the area that you're talking about, the passageway?
Yes.
And then there's a center courtyard?
Yes. Front patio. Yeah.
And then what's there in that center courtyard?
Just some furniture and a gate.
Is that the gate? You kind of see a gate door right here where I'm pointing to?
Yes.
Okay, it's appears to be like a black gate.
Yeah.
When you got to that area, was the gate open, or what was the condition of the gate?
It was locked.
And so, did you run from where you heard Amie went from screaming to muffled? Did you run to the front of the house, or did you walk? How did you get to the front of the house?
I ran as fast as I could.
And when you got to the front area of the house, did you notice anything at that point?
Yes.
What did you notice?
That the gate was locked.
Did you notice anything related to the French doors that are by there?
No,
Why not?
because I was running and trying to get over the fence with my momentum as fast as I could.
And so how did you get over the gate?
I climbed over it somehow. Like, I don't remember the exact specifics because I was just so.
And is part of the gate a wrought iron?
I think almost most of it is.
And as you're climbing this wrought iron gate, does anything happen to you?
Yeah, I get cut up and a few puncture wounds.
Where did you get cut up?
On my stomach, my hand, my arm, in my crotch area, on my legs.
And why did that happen?
Getting over the spikes part of the wrought iron gate.
So did you go up that gate pretty quickly?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
I have a 2-page document showing Mr. Michael Herman, the missing Mark Peoples, next in order, Peoples number
You're 20.
20,
Is that A and something?
20A and B.
Right.
And here at 20A, you recognize the individual depicted in that photograph?
Yes, it's me.
And are you wearing the clothing you were wearing at the time that you climbed over that gate?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The clothing you're wearing on this photograph, is this the same clothing you were wearing at the time you climbed the gate?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because it's got holes in it.
Looking at photograph B. You recognize what's shown there?
Yes,
What is that?
that's my stomach.
Well, I understand that, but it appears to depict some type of injury, correct?
Yes,
When did you sustain that injury?
when I was climbing over the gate.
Okay, can you describe that injury?
It was like the tip of the wrought iron gate going into my stomach and then like scraping around. As I climb over it, kind of made a hook.
So yeah. Now, as you're on the gate, are you able to hear anything coming from the home?
No,
You don't hear her screaming?
no.
And so after you climb over the gate, where do you go?
To the next door neighbor's house
Why?
because we had just met him and I was trying to get to a phone.
And I have a DVD with the name Michael Herman, has labeled 2 ring videos for 2080 Mound and 2 911 calls dated February 15th, 2020. May this be my people's next in order. Number 21. And I have a transcript for 1 ring video, which cannot be marked as 21A. And I have a transcript for a 911 call dated February 15, 2020, approximately 1:11 a.m. May that transcript be marked as 21B?
They're all on the same DVD?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have another transcript for a 911 call dated February 15, 2020, approximately 1:18 a.m. May that be marked as people's number 21C?
Yes.
And I provided court and counsel copies of these transcripts. May I publish the transcript to the jury?
Yes.
So there should be, everyone should have 3 transcripts.
Right.
It's going to be 1:11 a.m.
Are you talking about the 911 call?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
and 118,
1:18, and then there's going to be a ring surveillance transcript.
all right.
I'll give you an extra copy. So everyone should have 3 transcripts. 1 transcript is just 1 page with, has 2 sides to it.
Yes.
On the last transcript, right?
I'm sorry, Gareth?
Passing out the last transcript.
Yes, Your Honor.
Supposed to have 3,
Everyone's supposed to have 3 transcripts.
but it's making its way down there,
Yeah.
down here.
Just pass it back. Extras just get passed around. We should just pass all the extras around. let that just get passed around. Just pass them around. If you already have, just pass them around. Yeah, it's coming around.
Anyone missing 111?
You all have 3 transcripts?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Very good. All right, Counsel.
I'm going to show the ring camera video at this time, Your Honor.
That is the 1 page back and front?
Yes.
All right.
One of the 2080 Mountain videos has sound. The other one doesn't. That's why we only have passage for one ring video.
All right.
Do you see the timestamp at the bottom right corner?
Yes.
That timestamp shows about 1:08 in the morning and some seconds. Does that appear to be around the time that you went there?
Yes.
And is that you on the video?
Yes.
And how are you feeling at that point when you're knocking on that door?
A little defeated and just really stressed out.
Why do you say I feel defeated?
Because first of all, I couldn't find my phone, and then
Where did you leave your phone?
in my room,
Did you take any keys with you out of your room?
no.
So why didn't you take your phone or your keys out of your room before leaving?
Well, I couldn't find my phone. I wasn't thinking about keys by the time I was leaving.
And so you knock on this door, and does anybody respond?
No.
Let me play the second ring video clip. And this one will not have a transcript. On that ring video, it appears that you leave that area, that particular home, and where do you go?
Across the street to another neighbor's house
Why did you do that?
because I thought they might be home and I had met them.
And looking here at people's number one, does that show the area where that other home's located?
Yes.
If it does it?
Yes.
Can you point with your finger where that would be?
This house here.
So it's the house right in front of 2078 Mountain Street.
Yes.
And so did you have to go through a gate, or how did you get to that other house?
I had to go through a gate.
Did you have to, was it locked? What did you have to do to get past the gate?
Just open the gate and walk through.
And what did you do at that point?
I rang the first doorbell, which I realized didn't make any sound, and then realized there was a second doorbell to the right and rung that and heard it make a sound.
And then what happened?
Nothing.
Did anyone respond?
They did not.
How did you feel at that point after you knocked on the second house and no one showed up?
Really worried.
Why?
because I need time was ticking. I was worried what was happening to Amie.
So what did you do next?
Actually was looking around potentially for a rock to throw through a window because I felt they were home and maybe just ignoring it because it was so late. And then I saw somebody walking up the street listening to headphones.
Can you describe this person?
Yeah, it was a black guy walking up the street, taller than me. Yeah.
And was this on Mound Street?
Yes.
And did you approach this person?
Yes.
And what did you do or say?
I asked him if he could call the police.
And what did he say?
He said yes, or yes.
Did he let you borrow his phone?
Yeah. I was going to say, really, I think I'd asked him if I could call the cops, or I can't remember if he could call the cops, but I remember I was scared at first because I one of the things I kept thinking was there could be more than one person, and maybe this is someone involved. So I was really like standoffish. I made him call the cops, and I realized like pretty quickly, okay, he's cool, and took the phone from him. I was scared to get too close to him at first.
And where were you when you borrowed the phone from this gentleman?
Right in front of pretty much right, like catty corner, right in front of this house, but towards
When
the
you say
side.
this house, these houses have numbers on them. Can you tell us which one?
Well, I was right in front of, I was like right here,
Okay.
right in front of this house across the street.
Okay, so you're talking about the
Yeah,
house in
that
front of
side.
2078, across the street from 2078.
Yes. Yeah.
And from that distance, at this point, when you're with this gentleman, are you able to hear any sounds from Amy's house?
No.
And how much time has passed? How much time could you estimate has passed from the time you left Amie at the house to when you're now talking to this gentleman about borrowing his phone? Approximately.
I would estimate maybe in between 5 and 10 minutes. It's the best I can estimate.
Does he immediately let you borrow his phone?
Yes.
And is 911 called?
Yes.
Going back to People's Exhibit number 21, I'm going to play the first 911 call, which is 1:11 a.m. As you were hearing the audio. And I'm going to give you a copy of the transcript and have you read along. I'm going to ask you some questions, Mr. Herman.
Yep. Somebody just attacked my roommate. We're at 2806 Mound Street. I don't know. I just had to run out of the house. I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't find a weapon. I couldn't find anything. I don't know. I was downstairs. I heard screaming. I was sleeping in a cop here.
Okay, you ask me these questions, okay, they're very important. What exactly happened? You did
You're
not.
a yellow bitch. What?
Are you ready to answer my questions, sir?
Are you? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Did you see anything?
No.
Okay, so
No, I heard her screaming and I heard her being.
all right, so I'm gonna send out that somebody's screaming, okay, since you didn't see anything. You don't know if she's being attacked, you're not sure.
Yes, I know she's being attacked. I heard her got thrown to the ground.
Okay, all right, so 2086 Mound Street, is that a house
Yeah.
or an apartment, sir?
It's a house.
Okay. And this is, who's screaming inside?
Let me pause it at 1 minute and 5 seconds. Now here, you tell the 911 operator that on line 19, I heard her screaming and I heard her being, what were you going to say?
Objection calls for speculation.
What, do you know what you were gonna say, sir? Do you have a
Yeah.
recollection of what you were gonna say?
Yeah, I was going to say choking.
What?
Where it says I heard her screaming and I heard her. Actually, I was being attacked.
What?
I heard her being attacked. I don't know for sure. No, what I was going to say. I can't complete that thought. I mean, I know generally, but I don't know the exact word I was going to use.
Well, you don't have to tell us the exact words, but what was your thought at that point, if you remember?
Objection irrelevant.
Just stay, let's move on, guys.
Looking at line 23, where you say, I know she was being attacked. I heard her getting thrown to the ground. Is that what you remember happening that night?
Yes.
Go ahead.
in big right now. Amie Harwick,
Who is she to you, sir?
Steve, our roommate.
Okay. And she's screaming for help?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, and your name?
Michael Herman.
And what is your callback number, Michael?
I don't have my phone. This is somebody else's phone.
Okay, would it be okay to contact you back at this phone?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. And so you're also hearing somebody hitting her, is that correct?
Yes, I heard something like that, yes.
Okay.
She wouldn't answer.
I'm going to pause it at 1 minute and 40 seconds. Right here on line 12, when the operator's asking you, and so you're also hearing somebody hitting her, is that correct? And you say, yes, I heard something like that. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm thinking when she got choked and thrown to the ground.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was yelling up there.
Okay, so I'm just gonna send out her screaming, okay, since we don't know what is going on?
Yes.
All right, and where are you gonna be, so you can direct
I'm right up front. I'm right up front.
Are you black, white, Hispanic, or Asian, so they know who to look for?
What now?
Are you black, white, Hispanic, or Asian?
White.
Okay,
White.
and what color shirt will you have on?
White.
Okay, that way they can find you, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Michael. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Looking back at page 2, where you said, line 13, you said, my God, I'm going to hang up on this bitch. Why did you say that?
I felt really defeated, and I just wanted somebody there quick. I knew something was really wrong.
Did you feel that the operator was believing what you were saying?
No, and it was again part of just feeling defeated. Like, here we go again, you know.
Now we're going to play the second. Now, after you make that 911 call, what happens?
I go to the house and I'm starting to yell up to the window.
You go up to which house?
Amy's house.
And so are you in front of your house?
Yes.
Okay. Are you right outside the gated area?
Yes, I'm in the driveway right up front.
By the way, could you see if there are any lights on the 3rd floor?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, there were lights on the 3rd floor.
On which?
On the 3rd floor into that media room area.
You could see
That's
that
what
the
I was-
light.
Yeah, I was trying to look in from the driveway. I was backing up and trying to like get an angle to look through to see if I could see her.
Could you see anything as the lights were on the 3rd floor in that media room?
No.
Do you know if the lights appeared to be on in the mid-level, in like the living room area?
Honestly, I can't remember.
Okay. And so you said you were in front of the house, and what did you do?
I was yelling up to Amie.
Can you use the same language you used that night, if you remember, here in the courtroom? What were you yelling at this point to Amie?
I was just yelling her name, like trying to get her attention and see if she stood up and where I could see her. And
Well, can you do it the way you did it that night? I know. Try your best.
I was just yelling like, Amie, Amie. Yeah.
Did you get any response?
No,
Did anyone respond from within that house?
no.
So then, could you hear her screaming or being choked, anything like that?
No.
And so, how long does that go on before something else happens?
I guess a few minutes, and then I think I called 911 again after that.
Why did you do that?
It just, to me in that moment, it felt like an eternity.
And what was your intention in calling 911 again?
To hurry them up.
Have the second 911 call. This is better to read along. I want to see. I'm going to play that now.
Yeah, I'm wondering why it's taking the cops so long to get here.
You provide the address, I can look it
Yeah,
up.
2086 Mount Street. This is absolutely incredible.
If something changed since you you originally called?
What now? What?
Has anything changed since you originally called?
Yes, she's not answering. Like I'm outside her fucking window yelling. Nobody's answering. You guys need to get a cop here quick.
Sir, the officers are on the way. I'm asking if I can update them.
So there, in that 911 call, on line 9, you're saying that she's not answering
Yes,
and that you're yelling at the window.
yes,
And is that what you, when you're saying yelling at the window, is that what you described a few moments ago here in court?
yes.
And how soon after that 911 call ends do police officers arrive?
I finally tried that Lazy Girl TikTok hack, and wow, this is your sheer coverage, sunscreen, and moisturizer all in one. This is the Universal Tint and Moisturizer from Dermatology.
Yes, it has gone viral all over TikTok. Basically, it's like liquid gold for your skin.
Look at that. It just totally blends in, and I have no makeup on.
Look how even that is.
It's a blend of SPF 46 and foundation that works with all skin tones and skin types.
No color matching, no uploading photos. It really is universal.
Honestly, you can put makeup over this, but I really don't think you need to. That's it. Look at that. My skin is glowing right now. It looks so good.
And then ran out to the front. Was Amie Harwick anywhere on your patio at that point when you left?
No,
So now that you're coming back, do you make it back to the patio area with the police officers?
yes.
And what do you see when you turn the corner and see the patio?
At first, I wasn't sure what I was looking at, but it was Amie.
And how would you describe her condition?
Really bad.
What does that mean?
She was struggling to breathe. Her eyes were bulging.
Was she talking?
No,
Did you touch her at all?
I couldn't get too close to her. The officers were kind of directing me.
And how did you feel at that moment?
Beyond defeated. Just the word to me in my mind, like every decision I made, like the worst case scenario just unfolded. Like I can't describe how I felt. Like there aren't words.
At that time, did you try to provide officers as much information about what you heard that night prior to seeing Amie on the patio? Is that too long of a question? Maybe.
Can you rephrase?
Did the officers ask you about what happened?
Yeah. Yes.
And did you try to tell them to the best of your ability what you had heard that night, that morning?
Yes. My best ability at the time.
Did you tell them that Amie Harwick was afraid of an ex-boyfriend?
I did.
Did you see paramedics arrive at that location at the back patio?
Yes.
Did you see them attend to her?
Yes.
Were you still there when her body was taken away to the
Yes.
hospital?
Yes.
And how long did you remain at the house where you were living at before you were taken somewhere else?
I don't know exactly how many hours, but by the time I left, it was daylight.
Did you show some detectives what happened that night there?
I did. I did.
Did you tell them where you were when you heard things happen?
Yes.
And did you tell detectives, to the best of your ability, what happened that night, that night and that morning?
Yes.
And you previously testified at a preliminary hearing
Yes.
where you were asked questions by the prosecution and the defense?
Yes.
And did you answer it to the best of your ability?
Yes.
Now, as far as what you do for a living, what you were doing for a living at that time, you were selling products. Is that correct?
It's kind of selling some products in an intermediary for companies looking for product.
What kind of products were these?
Sex toys.
And where would you sell them?
Well, that's it. I would more work between the retailers and the manufacturers.
And do you have a 1995 felony conviction for possession for sale of marijuana?
Yes.
How old were you back in 95?
20 or 21.
Had you ever met the defendant who's here in court, Gareth Pursehouse, before?
No.
After Amie was taken away by the paramedics that day, did you ever see her again?
No.
I have nothing further on.
Cross-examination.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. I do have a follow-up question. Looking here at People's Exhibit number, next in order, People's number 22, photograph showing some French doors. Photograph A. Do you recognize what's shown there?
Yes.
Are those the French doors leading into the living room?
Yes.
Let me show you another photograph. B, much more clear photograph. You see what's depicted there?
Yes.
You see what appears to be some damage there?
Yes.
Was that damage there before that morning?
No.
Looking at people's next in order, this would be a document with 4 photographs showing a statue. Maybe this is my people's next in order, number 23.
Yes.
Looking at photograph 23A. You recognize what's shown there?
Yes.
What is that?
It's like this Hindu statue.
And is this next to the fence that divides the property, looking here at People's One, between 2086, where you live, and 2078?
Yes.
Is this towards the back of the patio
It is.
of your, where you live?
Yes.
Looking at photograph 23B, is that a close-up of that statue?
Yes.
Looking at photograph, well, does this statue appear to have various arms?
Yes.
See that? Looking at photograph 23C, and is that the lower part of the statue?
It's an arm off the statue.
See that there where there's a photo ID number 9.
Yes.
And looking at photograph D, which is a close-up of that, do you see that there?
Yes.
All right. And this is next to the fence, correct?
Correct.
And so, had you seen that before, that arm had been broken from that statue before
No.
that night?
No.
I have nothing further.
All right, Counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Herman. Good morning.
So you had lived with Amie starting in October of 2019. Is that about right?
Roughly. I don't remember the exact month, but yeah, roughly.
Okay. And you got to meet Amie through your friend Robert Koshland,
Yes,
and you previously lived with Robert Koshland before moving in with Amie.
I did.
And how long did you live with him?
Special relevance?
Well, he's gonna be a witness, is he?
Yes.
No, I don't know.
Little over a year.
So when you moved in October, you were traveling to China that month in October.
Yeah, I believe so.
So out of the 3.5 months that you lived there, you were traveling about 50% of the time.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. And you lived on the bottom floor of this 3-story home, is that correct?
Correct.
So separating your floor, which was the bottom floor, and the area upstairs where Amie's bedroom and the media room were, there was a living area separating those 2 floors, is that
Yes.
correct? And on the living area, there was a living room, a dining area, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a desk area?
That's all on that second floor.
Yes. And the stairway that leads up from your level to the living room area, that kind of divides the house down the middle.
I guess roughly.
And so above your bedroom would be the kitchen, dining room area.
Yes.
And Amie's bedroom would be above the kitchen, dining room area.
Yes, roughly.
Okay. Now, when you were talking yesterday and describing the floor plan of the house, there were a couple of rooms that you discussed. And just to be clear, the laundry room that is adjacent to your bedroom area and the bathroom that you have, is that accessible from inside the house?
It's not.
And the garage that's in the front of the house, 2-car garage,
Yes.
is that accessible to the inside of the house?
No.
All right, so when you leave the garage, you have to go around the front of the house to get inside through that wrought iron gate. Is that correct?
Or you could go around to the backside to the left too, but yes.
And when you would come home, which way would you usually go back into the house?
Well, I didn't drive, so I just would walk through the front gate.
So you go through the front gate?
Yeah.
And what about Amie's practice? Would she usually go in through the front gate too?
Usually.
And that front gate had to be locked with a key?
It didn't have to be, and it wasn't a lot.
Well, okay, so if you wanted to lock it, you needed a key.
Yes.
Okay, but it wasn't locked a lot.
Right. I mean, if you wanted to lock it, you needed a key, but it had a latch. I mean, it was like a doorknob.
Okay, so it was not routinely locked.
It was at night. We had gotten in the habit of leaving it open during the day for Amazon packages. And then in the routine of the last person in would lock it.
And do you remember saying previously at any point that Amie used to sometimes forget to lock that gate?
Yes.
They get the time.
What period are you talking about?
Do you recall saying that on February 15th, 2020?
I don't remember when I said it, but I vaguely remember saying it.
So it would be a true statement to say that Amie often or sometimes forgot.
Yes.
They get the time period.
Well, he lived there for a 5-month period, so in the 5 months,
Yes, in the time you lived there.
yeah,
Sure.
a lot of it.
Thank you. All right, so when this incident happened and the first police officers arrived, you were very agitated, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess. It's real hard to describe how I was feeling.
Was it a combination of a lot of feelings?
There's a lot of adrenaline. Yes.
Would you say you were fearful?
Yes.
Would you say you were frustrated?
Yes.
Was part of your frustration the feeling that no one was taking your explanation seriously?
That was a part of it.
And that included the 911 operator?
Yes.
And did you feel that same way when the first police officers arrived?
A little. Yeah, at first.
Did you feel that you needed to motivate them to take this seriously?
A little.
Did you feel like did you remember actually getting so frustrated with them that you cursed at them and walked away from them?
I don't remember that.
All right, let me ask you something. Before coming to court yesterday to testify, you said you got to look at some video.
Yes.
So let me just ask you what you did to prepare for your testimony at this trial.
I'm going to object as argumentative.
Overruled. Not allowed.
Did you talk to the prosecutors in preparation for your testimony today?
Yes.
And when did you do that?
I guess yesterday.
And did you speak with Mr. Avila?
Yes.
And did you also speak with his co-counsel?
No.
Did you speak with the detectives?
Yes.
Which detectives?
I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Detective Carranza?
Yeah.
Did you speak to any other detective?
No,
Did you read any transcripts?
I did.
Do you know how many transcripts you read?
I don't. There's only a couple.
Did you read your testimony from the preliminary hearing?
I believe I did.
And did you read transcripts of any of the body-worn video?
No.
Did you read transcripts of your interview with the detectives on February 15th, 2020?
I believe so. I don't, hold on. The interview was, yeah, I did.
And you watched body-worn video?
Yes.
About-
Not yesterday or this trip, the trip before
Okay, and when was that trip before?
when we had the other hearing.
Okay, so that was in 2021.
Yes.
So prior to the preliminary hearing, you had an opportunity to look at body-worn video,
Yes.
and you got to observe what you said to police officers
Yes.
throughout the evening of February 15th. Is that correct? Or the early morning hours of February 15th?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall testifying at the preliminary hearing that this is at the preliminary hearing in 2021, that you said you don't remember now as well as I did then a lot of things. This has been a little traumatic.
Yes.
And were you saying when you testified to that under oath in 2021 that your memory at the preliminary hearing was not as good as on the date this event transpired?
I'm vague as to what he was referring to in page of the preliminary hearing
Well,
transcript.
just in general, his recollection, his memory during the preliminary hearing wasn't as good as the day of the incident. Is that your question?
Yes.
Would that be a true statement, sir? That your memory is better on the date of the incident versus the day of the preliminary hearing?
For the most part, but there were things I remembered after the incident.
But were there things you remembered after the preliminary hearing?
I've obsessed over this so much, it's hard to remember what I've remembered when I've spent so much time thinking about this. It's hard to remember when, as far as timeline goes.
Right. So you put a lot of thought into this, trying to put the pieces together and figure out what happened.
Objection argumentative.
Sustain as phrased.
Would you say that have a moment. Would you say that you could be over processing in your head, but you've been thinking about this obsessively?
Vague as to context.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to, counsel.
Well, do you recall having a phone conversation with detectives on February 20th, 2020?
I don't know the exact date it was. There was a couple conversations, throughout time. But
Okay, so around February 2020, do you remember talking to detectives and telling them that I could be over processing in my head, but I've been thinking about this for days, obviously?
yes, I remember something like that in the conversation.
And would you say that's been true in the intervening years since this incident has happened?
I'm
You've
gonna
been doing
object
the
this,
same thing?
I'm gonna object this overbroad, referring to February 2020 and then referencing other dates.
The court will allow it.
Do you need me to
Your
re-ask?
statement, sir.
Do you want me to re-ask?
No, because it's been a process. Like, it's really hard to explain. Like the first 6 to 9 months were really difficult. But COVID had just happened. I was basically alone with my thoughts for a year, and being in lockdown. That was pretty close to when we came here for that first hearing. I was in really bad shape.
And since the preliminary hearing, you said you have not remembered any new details?
Vague as to new details?
Just details in general about the incident?
Yes.
Okay.
I did remember a couple more details.
And you testified to them today?
No.
Let me ask you this. The first officers who arrived at the scene, did you tell them that you heard muffled screams?
I assume so. I don't remember exactly word for word what I told the officers.
So
then.
it's your recollection that you did tell them you had heard muffled screams?
Objection, misstates the testimony.
Right, sustained, as phrased.
So you don't know whether or not you told them?
I don't remember how I told them.
Okay. Did you tell the first officers who responded that Amie was yelling the entire time? She was upstairs yelling when I ran out of the house.
Yeah, I don't remember that specifically.
And today you testified that she was not screaming the entire time. Is that correct?
Yes.
The second responders that came, did you tell them that you heard muffled screams?
I don't
I'm
even.
gonna object if he was asked these questions.
Well, the question isn't whether he was asked the question, but whether he told them. Whether it was because of a question that was posed or he told them on his own. The court will allow it.
There was a lot of questions from a lot of people. I can't remember specifically. I remember in general telling them what had happened several times to different people.
And you recall specifically telling them there were muffled screams?
No, I don't remember specifically telling them in those words. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Do you recall saying several times throughout your encounters with law enforcement on February 15th that Amie was screaming the entire time and you heard her screams as you ran out of the house?
Compound as to various law enforcement officers.
Court will allow it.
It sounds like you're asking me the same question over and over, but I don't remember telling them specifically that I heard her screaming the entire time. I just don't remember saying that specifically.
And your recollection today is that she was not screaming the entire time?
Objection, argumentative.
No, overruled. Is that your recollection today, sir?
Yeah, no, there was like a one period where it was like dead silent for a little bit. Like, and I'm pretty sure I told the detectives that too.
If I asked you, did you tell the detectives that, what would your answer be?
My answer be, I'm pretty
Vegas
sure.
told them what?
Told him that she was screaming the entire time?
Yes,
Oh, you were going back to that.
yes.
I just told you. It's asked and answered that. I don't remember specifically telling them that, but
Okay.
I could have.
Okay. But if that's what you told them, your testimony today contradicts that, correct?
Right, that's been asked and answered. He stated, as he sits here today, she wasn't screaming the entire time. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
That's the one.
Thank you. And with the muffled screams, you have no specific recollection of telling any officer or detective on February 15th that you heard muffled screams?
I can't recall like exactly how I described it to the officers at that time. I could have said muffled screams. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Did you tell any of the officers or detectives on February 15th that you heard the sound of a plate breaking?
And what date was that?
February 15th.
Okay, are you referring to the phone call I had with the
I'm talking
detectives?
about the date, the morning of February 15th, where you were woken by Amie
Okay,
screams.
okay, I'm just bad with the date, the timeline part. No, I didn't remember that for a couple weeks.
And who was the first person you told about hearing something break when you remembered a couple of weeks later?
It was Robert Koshland.
And after you spoke to Robert Koshland, that's when you called the police?
Yeah, I didn't think it was that important, and Robert felt it was, and told me to call the detectives and tell them.
And isn't it true that on February 20th, the date that you called the detectives, that was the first time you ever told the detectives that you heard anything like choking?
I don't remember. I just don't remember.
But your testimony today is that you heard choking on February 15th.
Yeah, and I believe in the 911 call, they cut me off as I'm saying it.
Well, I didn't hear that. So,
Look at the transcript.
So when the 911 operator asked you if an ambulance was needed, you said no.
I said I didn't know.
You didn't know. But if somebody were being choked, wouldn't you think they would need medical attention?
Objection argumentative.
The level of physicality you were describing, did it cause you to believe that Amie was being harmed?
Yeah, it did. It did.
And so you were convinced that she might need an ambulance?
I was just flipped out, wanting them to get the cops there. I don't know what to tell you. I could have been thinking better. Sure.
You were in a state of panic, is that true?
And shock. Yeah.
And panic?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about you told several officers on February 15th that you were in a panic. Is that correct?
I don't specifically remember that. I could have.
So far, we've seen a 3D recreation of Amie Harwick's home.
Yeah.
Other than the scale, does the 3D rendition of 2086 Mound fail to include outside foliage and furniture and everything else inside the house?
You mean outside the house?
outside and inside?
I didn't get a good look inside, but yeah, there's missing foliage on the fence on the outside.
Okay. And the trees near the balcony, are those also missing?
I can't remember.
I believe there's been another copy of this, and I'm gonna mark this as defense name, a defense next in order.
Good. E.
So you testified previously that this is the back door that leads to the living area,
Yes.
and that shows the staircase that goes up to the living room area.
Yes.
Defense next in order, Your Honor.
Beth.
And is this showing that same staircase from the landing in the living room area?
Yes.
And you can see it has a low ceiling as you descend the staircase.
Actually, what you're capturing is just where the low ceiling starts, about halfway or a little more down. It's actually pretty high, right after where you can see. I don't know if you want me to point at it, but that lip at the top.
Yes.
You have a
After
pointer
that.
there, sir?
Yes. After that, it's pretty high.
Okay. So, but the stairway has a low ceiling.
No, about the last third to half of the stairway has a low ceiling.
And when you ascend the stairs, is this the landing area?
Is that G?
Defense G. Thank you.
As you ascend, yes,
And what is this at the top of the stairs?
it's a statue.
The statue? And was that statue present on the evening of February 14th and the morning of February 15th?
It was.
Was this jacket also hanging there?
Yeah, I assume it was. I didn't notice it until like the next day or two.
Defense next in order, H.
H, yes.
I'm showing you a screenshot from some body worn video.
Yes,
As you can see the date there?
Yes.
3/5/2020.
yes,
Is that the date that you did a walkthrough with detectives of 2086 Mound and described for them what your recollections were from the date of February 15th?
I can just assume so based on the date on the photo.
And does it appear to you that in this frozen frame of the body worn video that you're recreating screaming up the staircase?
Yes,
So would this be a fair depiction of you screaming up the staircase, Amie?
I can't remember if that was Hey Motherfucker or Amie.
Okay, so you basically were in the same position for each of the screams.
I don't remember.
So, this would be Ben's.
You're I.
Thank you. So, showing you defense I. Is this the same dummy that is at the top of the staircase leading from your living area?
Yes.
And so this is the staircase that leads up to Amy's living area.
It is.
And here is another photograph showing the same staircase.
Is that Jay
Yes,
Council?
thank you. This shows the same staircase leading up to Amy's living area from another angle.
Yes.
And I'm going to point to something here. Do you know what this is here?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's a camera.
A camera? So it's like a Nest or Nest camera.
Yes.
And here for the record?
I'm pointing to, there's like an antelope head, and if you go down about a little bit, there's like a dark object that looks like it's a figure 8 shape.
Sort of in the corner of the roof, I mean the ceiling?
Yes.
Oh.
And when police officers arrived and as they talked to you that evening, were you making them aware that there was Nest video to be retrieved to help them in their investigation of this case?
I can't remember exactly when it came up, but I do remember by the morning with the detectives talking about it, making sure that they knew when we're working on that.
I'm sorry, what?
That they knew when we're working on that.
So you felt it was important that law enforcement know that there was Nest cameras operating at that time?
Yes, I just remember.
Protection Foundation operating at that time.
Well, there were cameras at that time, whether they're operable or not. So I was standing with respect to that, but why don't you rephrase your questions?
Were you aware of whether or not they were operating?
Not at that moment, no.
But in the days prior to this incident, were you aware they were operating?
They've been operational since I've lived there.
So you had Amy never told you anything about them not functioning properly?
Objection calling for hearsay or negative hearsay.
So sustained negative?
Well,
Yeah, but the sustained on hearsay, I don't know about negative, but you're sustained.
So do you have any reason to believe that the Nest cameras were not operating?
Protection Foundation.
Sustained.
So as far as you know, the entire time you lived there, they were operating?
I actually think they were out a couple times. But they did operate. She had sent me video.
She had
Of
sent you
them.
video in the past?
Yeah.
And was it within like a week of this incident?
I can't remember.
All right, let's take a morning break, if you will, for about 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
Detectives and leave a voicemail message for them.
I did.
And do you remember what you said in that voicemail message 5 days after the first interview?
I think that's the one where I remembered that when she was screaming, she wasn't moving or being jarred or jostled, or it could have been the one where I remembered the plate falling, or what I thought was a plate falling.
We're looking at a transcript of that voicemail message. Would that help you remember what you said during the voicemail message?
It would help me remember which call it was.
May I put you on it?
Yes.
And this is the answered for the phone message on February 20th, 2020. Just wrap up page. Just read it to yourself. Let me know if that helps you remember. Okay?
Yes,
Does that help you remember what you left on the voicemail for the detectives?
yes.
And what did you say at that time?
That was after that. I remembered the sound waking me up of what I thought was a plate falling on the floor.
Did you say, I don't think it's going to be any new information or anything to help, but after seeing the door and stuff, and just yesterday, it occurred to me that I remember while I was being woken up by what sounded like a plate dropping, and then somebody walking around upstairs. Is that what you told him?
Yes.
So you didn't know if that was helpful or not, but you thought you'd leave that for the detectives.
Yeah, Robert. I wasn't even going to tell them. Robert was the one that told me I should.
Then did the detectives call you back?
Yes.
And did they interview that day, 5 days after the murder?
Yes.
And during that interview, well, counsel's been asking you, when did you say anything about choking? During that interview, at the very beginning, don't you tell the detectives 5 days after the murder that she was being choked?
I'm going to object to the term murder, Your Honor. That's a question for the jury.
Sustained.
Killing after her death.
Her death.
After
Yes.
her death, 5 days after her death, did you tell the detectives that she was being choked?
Yes.
Did you say specifically, I think because when I yelled up her name, I think he put her to the ground as quickly as he could and started choking her.
This, Your Honor, this does not.
All right, he stated that he stated that he did, Counsel.
Counsel asked, making it seem that this is the first time he's talking about the choking, so I'm trying to rehabilitate.
Does that include the choking?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So
This was on February 5th, Your Honor. I was talking to him about February 14th and 15th.
Well, that
I
wasn't
mean, he was
clear.
talking
but-
about February, Mr. Apple was talking about February 20th, and I'm talking about, I've limited my questions to February 14th and 15th.
there's an inference that he's saying this for the first time based on the question.
Go ahead.
Did you state the following? I think he put her to the
Your
ground.
Honor, this is improper. You should be asking the witness what he told them, not reading from.
I think he did. Let's get to the choking part of it. If it's in there, get pinpoint if you would.
What page are you?
This is on page 2 of the February 20th, 2020 transcript, line 14. Okay. I think he put her to the ground as quickly as he could and started choking her. Okay, I could hear her choking. But detective, but you say, does that make sense? Detective, wait a minute. You heard her choking? Answer, yes, I heard her choking. So did you say that on February 20th, 2020 to the detective?
Yes.
At the preliminary hearing, on September 20th, 2021, when you were examined by both the prosecution and the defense, did you state, when asked by the prosecution, can you describe the sounds you heard after you called out to her? Did you answer? This is, I'm sorry, at page 64 of the preliminary hearing transcript, volume 2, September 20th, 2021, line 17, at page 64.
64 of volume 2.
Yes. September 20th, 2021, page 64, line 16 to 22. Right.
Yes, what was the question?
Is this your statement about what you heard at that time at the preliminary hearing? Question by the prosecution. Can you describe the sounds you heard after you called her out? Your answer, sounded like two bodies hitting the floor. Question, why would you say that? Answer, because it was two thuds, one after another, one right after the other.
You know, this is improper redirect, because this is not something we went into.
All right, so sustain. All right. Go ahead, Councilman.
Looking at the following page, page 65, line 16,
Take a look at it, Council.
Line 16.
All right.
question of the prosecution, can you describe the sounds that you heard? Answer, sounded like a female choking. Question, why would you describe it like that? Answer, because it just sounded like a female choking. It sounded like Amie choking. Was that your answer about what you heard?
Your Honor, part of that answer was stricken by the court at the preliminary hearing, and the council just read it into the record.
Well, if that's the case, I don't know. I don't have that in front of me.
That is the case.
Well,
May we approach?
That's, yes.
Mr. Herman, was your statement at the preliminary hearing on September 20th, 2021, that because it sounded like a female choking?
Yes.
And now when the police officers first saw you that night, did you have any blood on your shirt?
I believe I did.
So if you have blood on your shirt, you're telling them someone just attacked your roommate. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Have these officers ever met you before?
no,
And you have blood on your shirt?
correct.
And do they bring that up, that you have blood on your shirt and you're saying something happened to your roommate?
Yes,
Now, you said Amie was trying to reinforce the actual French doors that were later broken?
Objection, this states the testimony.
I don't know. Is that correct, sir?
I said that I overheard her asking the handyman to reinforce the French doors,
All right.
Which French doors?
the front ones that were damaged.
And the body worn video, have you been able to see the body worn video when police officers first arrive and have contact with you?
Yes,
And does that body worn video show the TV, the condition of your TV?
yes.
Vegas to time, Your Honor. that,
Yeah, why don't you clear that up?
Well, at the time that the officers come into the property and go with you into your room, are you able to see the TV, how loud it is and so forth?
It wasn't making any noise, but I saw it was on.
Did Amie ever tell you how physically large was her ex-boyfriend that she was afraid of?
Yes,
What did she say in that regard, as far as his
Objection,
physical?
Your Honor, beyond the scope.
It's sustain.
Or did they tell us everything you know right now?
Objection, instant answer.
All right. He said that they were directing, were they directing by questions they were asking, sir?
yes.
Okay.
I have nothing further.
Recross?
Just briefly, Your
All right.
Honor. Mr. Herman, is it your recollection that the TV was muted at the time that you heard the screams?
No, just that when I watched it on the body cam video, I guess, I didn't hear it on, and it looked kind of like a screensaver.
Okay, so you're not aware of whether or not the audio was on at the time this incident
No.
occurred and you heard screams?
No.
Thank you. Nothing.
I would
Anything
ask-
based on that question?
Not based on that, but I would ask to briefly reopen on a question that was asked that I did not go into.
You mean, when asked on cross,
Yes.
the initial cross?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Counsel asked you whether you met with the prosecutors recently and whether you reviewed video recordings. Is that correct?
Correct.
Were you told what was the purpose of you having to review recordings back from 2020?
Just to help refresh my memory.
Has anyone, myself, the detectives, ever told you this is what we need you to testify?
Absolutely not.
And your interviews with the detectives back on February 15, 2020, they were recorded.
The initial interview, yes.
So when they first met you, they recorded that interview,
Yes.
and they recorded some subsequent interviews.
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
No.
All right, so you may step down.
Let's do can we approach you?
Wait, do you want to start 1:30 with this, or is it something you
We
can,
can start at 1:30 with reading.
is that, you have readers, right?
Yes. Actually, we may do it right now.
That's fine. All right. Yeah. You have a copy? Is this the witness who was supposed to testify tomorrow?
Yes,
Okay, as I advised you, ladies and gentlemen, what's going to happen now is kind of a recreation. This is a testimony that occurred by a representative of the FBI. And so someone's going to assume the role of that person, how they testified at the preliminary hearing, rather than that person being here tomorrow. That's the one I explained. All right? So you're assuming the role of the agent?
I am. Your Honor.
Okay. Make.
The agreement is that the testimony that we're about to present for Dr. Maureen Bradley would be as if she were here testifying to the same.
Right. Is that the stipulation yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that stipulated?
Yes, it's on the record, yes. You may proceed.
And does the court want me to read the part of the clerk and court? I'll read those parts too then?
Yeah, as long as you use different voices. No, go ahead. That's all.
The clerk, called as a witness by the people, having been first duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. The clerk can please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is Maureen, Maureen Bradley, Bradley.
The court, Dr. Bradley, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The court, let me provide you with some introductory instructions, which I hope will be of assistance to you. Please try to make yourself as comfortable as you can, because it is so difficult for us to hear and understand each other because of these masks. Please try to speak as loudly as you can in the direction of the microphone.
Okay.
The court. And while you're speaking, please speak slowly. Should you be asked a question that calls for a yes or no answer, please use those words rather than slang or shaking your head. Please wait for a full question to be asked of you before you even start to answer it. Please ensure that your mask always covers your nasal and mouth areas. Like all of us, you probably experienced the mask slipping when we talk. And lastly, if at any point in time you want to use any disinfectant materials in the area around yourself, they are located to your left behind you. Don't hesitate.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The court, is all that okay?
Yes.
The court, Mr. Avila? Mr. Avila, thank you. The court, you're welcome. Direct examination by Mr. Avila. Question, Dr. Bradley, what is it that you do for a living?
I'm a forensic examiner chemist at the FBI laboratory.
And can you briefly describe what is a forensic examiner with the FBI?
I analyze items of evidence that is submitted to the chemistry unit of the FBI laboratory by law enforcement agencies, whether it be the FBI field offices or state and local police departments. And in analyzing items of evidence, specifically in the last 7 or so years, I analyze drugs, pharmaceuticals, bank dye chemicals, general unknowns, and pepper spray. Again, I analyze those items of evidence, write a report of my findings, and then testify as necessary.
Thank you. How long have you been working as a forensic examiner with the FBI, approximately?
Approximately 22 years.
Now, can you briefly describe your education, your training, and your experience in chemical analysis?
I received a bachelor's degree from the College of St. Rose in Albany, New York. I received a master's and a PhD in analytical chemistry from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. For a period of time of about 5 years, I worked in an independent testing laboratory that was a material testing laboratory in Schenectady, New York. And then I began my tenure at the FBI laboratory in 1998. When I started my career at the FBI laboratory, I was a forensic examiner in training. I was trained to analyze items of evidence, specifically to document my analysis that I could be admissible in court, and I received specialized training in the types of materials that I analyzed, as well as specific instrumentation that I would use to analyze those materials. In my training, I took a number of oral examinations to demonstrate my knowledge. I took a number of competency tests, which were mock cases to demonstrate my ability to analyze these items and come to the correct conclusion. And I took a number of moot court exercises to demonstrate my ability to testify and explain my results in mock court settings.
Thank you. And now you mentioned that you would receive substances from other law enforcement agencies, which you would then analyze. Is that correct?
That's correct. We do not analyze items from the FBI field offices. We also accept items of evidence from state and local agencies.
Now, drawing you to the date of July 14th, 2020, on that day, did you receive a package that was sealed with a label of 21520 Harwick 3220933?
I did. I received that package, as you described it, through the normal course of business at the FBI laboratory. That is, as one of the examiner's chemists, case working units personnel, we don't actually physically receive evidence through the mail. We receive it through our evidence management unit. So I received that package through the evidence management unit.
And was that package a syringe holder labeled in part DR number 2006-06220?
Yes, it was.
And with a PID number 18 and a number 21?
Yes, it was.
And how would you describe, well, did you make a description of the item as a syringe with a cap, needle containing amber to orange liquid?
I did.
And did you take a picture of that syringe with that liquid?
I did.
Your Honor, I have an exhibit that was at the preliminary hearing marked as People's Exhibit 16. May this now be marked as People's 24?
Yes, and with that, we're going to go ahead and break, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a good lunch. We'll see you back at 1:30, if you will. And for the record, the reader, what is your name, please?
Negin, Negin. Last name Mostadim, Mostaddim.
Thank you very much. Your excuse, ladies and gentlemen. What was that exhibit? Is that photo of something? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, stipulation is a fact or a set of facts that both counsel have agreed are not at issue. So you're to accept them as evidence. All right. Here we go. You can read you want to read them at this time or not? Not yet.
No, not yet, Your Honor.
Okay. Very good.
All right. I think we left off on page 51, line 25. If we could start there.
All right.
Question by the prosecutor. Looking at People 16, page A, can you describe to the court what is shown here? The top photograph, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The top photograph is item 1, which is the FBI lab description of the syringe, the number 202000954. Number 1 is the laboratory number assigned at the FBI laboratory. So the photograph from the top is the syringe, item 1, described in my check-in notes containing this amber to orange liquid. The needle of the syringe is capped, meaning that it has a plastic clear cap that covers the needle. The bottom photograph is a close-up of the liquid in the barrel of the syringe. So if you look to the right-hand side, there's a black rubber plunger. That's the end of the plunger of the syringe. The middle is the orange to amber liquid, and then on the left-hand side is where the needle holder screws into the barrel of the syringe.
And would you describe this as a 3mm syringe?
Yes, it is a 3mm syringe.
And about how much liquid is in that syringe at the time you took these photographs, approximately?
There's approximately 1/2 a milliliter in the syringe of liquid.
Now, aside from receiving this syringe, did you receive some information from the law enforcement agency as far as the conditions in which this syringe was found?
I did. For each submission that comes into the FBI laboratory, there is a written request that comes in with the evidence that accompanies the evidence. So in that incoming communication, which was actually through the FBI field office in Los Angeles, there was a brief description of the crime as well as where the syringe was taken from.
On August 25th, 2020, did you analyze that liquid in that syringe, which was now FBI item number 1 under the FBI number 2020-00954?
I did.
And can you describe to us how you analyzed the liquid?
I removed the liquid from the syringe and put the liquid into a test tube. I then characterized the liquid in my notes. And if you could follow, I'd like to take my notes out.
The court, if that will assist you.
Yes.
The court, you may reference them. Do counsel have a copy of the notes? Ms. Bernstein?
Yes.
Ms. Bernstein, yeah. Mr. Avila, yes. The court, okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Bernstein, we need you to read that part.
I'm behind. What page are you on?
54.
Page 54, line 17.
I believe so, if it's a 2-page handwritten document.
The court, is that what it is, Dr. Bradley?
There is also an analytical data that you should have 2 pages of handwritten notes, photographs, evidence of analytical data.
Yes, thank you.
The court, people, yes? Mr. Avila, yes. The court, thank you. Look at the materials, Dr. Bradley, see if anything refreshes your memory. Then you can turn it upside down and then testify if you're able to from memory.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As I stated, I removed the liquid and then placed that liquid into a clean test tube. I then, as I said, described the liquid in my notes as somewhat oily, viscosity like water, amber to orange in color. And then I proceeded on to analyze the liquid. The first instrumentation that I used was a Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy, abbreviated FTIR. I placed the drop of the item 1 liquid onto the ATR accessory of the FTIR and obtained an infrared spectrum of the liquid.
The court, excuse me. Ms. Jones, are you okay with these terms? The reporter, I'm fine, Your Honor. The court, thank you. Please. Mr. Avila, can you explain the FTIR method of analyzing substances?
Yes, I can. Each chemical is created based on different atoms that have bonds to one another. Some chemicals have a signature FTIR spectrum. Other chemicals do not have a signature spectrum because they are similar in structure to one another. So we can either look at a spectrum and get an idea of the identity of a compound if it has a unique FTIR spectrum, or we can classify it into a class of compounds. So something such as cocaine or methamphetamine, they have characteristic FTIR spectra that are unique to those chemicals. Something such as oil, like say vegetable oil or mineral oil, they would have very similar spectra. So we could use those compounds into the same class of materials of oils, but we couldn't differentiate one oil from another based on their FTIR spectrum. So I obtained the spectrum of the item 1 liquid, and I used a library search with thousands of spectra, and the most similar spectrum that was obtained in the library search was nicotine. Then I obtained a nicotine standard from our reference collection, and I analyzed that nicotine standard also by FTIR.
Let me stop you there. Is the FTIR method a generally accepted method of analyzing chemicals in the scientific community?
Yes, it is.
And how long has it been used by the FBI to analyze chemicals, approximately?
I can't answer that question because I don't know how long, but I would estimate that the FBI has been using not necessarily FTIR because that's a newer technique, but infrared spectroscopy for a period of at least 40 or 50 years.
You discussed that you also submitted a standard. Looking here at page C, of this exhibit, people's number 16, but in court it's people's number 24. Can you tell us what is shown here?
Yes, this is the nicotine standard obtained from our reference collection.
And what is the purity of this standard as it's labeled?
As labeled, the purity is 99%.
What does that mean?
That 99% of that compound or that liquid is nicotine. The other 1% I can't attest to.
And how would you describe nicotine as a chemical? What would you say about nicotine?
Nicotine is a drug. It is a liquid, and obviously it's a chemical. It is not a drug that is a controlled substance by the Controlled Substance Act, as is heroin or cocaine, but it is a drug and it is a toxin or a poison.
Why would you say it could be a toxin or a poison?
It is a toxin or a poison because at high concentrations, it is toxic. It can be lethal.
And please complete your explanation how you analyzed the sample from the syringe and the 99% pure standard.
So I obtained the FTIR spectrum of the item 1 liquid. Library searches indicate that it's nicotine. I get the nicotine standard. I run that the same way I have run item 1 liquid by placing a drop of an ATR crystal and obtaining the spectrum. And then using the software with the instrument, I'm able to compare the two different spectra to one another by using an overlay of the two spectra. So they do overlay well with one another. There are some indications in the item 1 sample that there are some light differences from the nicotine standard. So I proceed on to another.
Sorry to interrupt. The slightest differences, given your experience, do you know what they may relate to?
I do not. I did not. It wasn't evident to me what those slight differences were in the spectra, and I did not necessarily pursue that.
If you could continue with your analysis under the FTIR method.
So when talking about the comparisons and there's some slight differences, I did not pursue that. So I can't speak to what those differences are.
So ultimately, what was the result of the FTIR method for you?
So the item 1 contained nicotine. I proceeded on to a second instrumental technique to pursue the identification of nicotine.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
How many more methods are you going to use to determine whether the item from the syringe is nicotine?
In this scenario, I used 2 additional methods.
And were these 2 additional methods to confirm that the item from the syringe was nicotine?
These 2 additional instrumental techniques were used to identify nicotine in the item 1 liquid.
Can you explain the second method that you used?
The second method that I used is DART mass spectrometry. The DART standards for direct analysis in real time, and I use both item 1 liquid and the standard, the nicotine standard, and I introduce the liquid using a capillary tube into the instrument. This instrument provides accurate mass of compounds that are present in the sample, whether it's a solid or a liquid. I then introduce the standard to the instrument, and I use the instrument software to analyze the data and to obtain the accurate mass of the item 1, the compound in the item 1 liquid, and the accurate mass in the nicotine standard.
Is the DART method of analyzing and identifying chemicals, is that generally a generally accepted method in the scientific community?
Yes, it is.
So if you could continue as to what you did with the DART method.
So as I said, I analyzed both the item 1 liquid and the nicotine standard, obtaining the accurate mass for the compound in both samples, and they were comparable to one another, meaning that the instrument produced the same result.
What does that mean, the same result?
Again, I'd have to look at my notes to get.
With the court's permission, the court, you may, please.
So as I said, the instrument will determine the accurate mass of the compound or compounds in the sample. So the item 1 liquid rendered a result of 163.123, and the nicotine standard rendered a result of 163.123.
How is that significant?
So the accurate mass of the compound present in item 1 is the same as the accurate mass of the nicotine standard. There's also a theoretical mass of nicotine that is calculated, and that value is 163.123.
And what else did you do to analyze the liquid from the syringe?
So the last instrumental technique I used was the gas chromatography mass spectrometry. I dilated the item 1 liquid 1 to 100 in methanol, and then I diluted the 1 to 100 dilution again 1 to 100. And
let me stop you there. Are you now mixing methanol into the liquid, the sample from the syringe, and also on the 99% pure standard?
Yes, I'm using a methanol to dilute the sample. So to dilute, it's just what it sounds like. I'm taking 1 part item 1 and adding 99 parts methanol to it. So I'm diluting it down 1 to 100. And then I'm diluting that 1 to 100 solution, another 1 to 100 fold to ultimately be 1 to 100, 1 to 10,000 dilution.
Why are you doing that?
The reason I'm doing that is I don't want to overwhelm my mass spectrometer with too much sample. And I don't want to have the concentration of the solution be approximately 100 parts per million. So I dilute my sample 1 to 10,000, and I also dilute my standard 1 to 10,000 using that same serial dilution, 1 to 100, taking that, dilating that 1 to 100, the final being 1 to 10,000 dilution.
Okay. And how does that assist you in analyzing what is the identification of the liquid from the syringe? How does that process assist you?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
We're talking about the GCMS standard, right?
Yes.
And so maybe I interrupted you. After diluting the 2 samples, what happens after that?
So I take that dilution, I put it into my instrument, and the gas chromatography portion of the instrument will separate any components that are present in that liquid. So if I had a mixture of materials, I could separate out the different components in that mixture using the gas chromatography. That will pass to the detector, meaning the components will pass to the detector at certain times, and then they will be analyzed by the mass spectrometer. So again, gas chromatography will allow for separation, and then the mass spectrometer will I think, obtain a spectrum and look at that spectrum and identify what particular component is. So in this run where I analyzed item 1 and the nicotine standard, I only obtained 1 peak for item 1 that was diluted 1 to 10,000 in methanol, and 1 peak for my nicotine standard that was diluted 1 to 10,000 in methanol. Both the item 1 and the nicotine standard had a retention time that was the same. And that retention time was 5.79 for item 1 and 5.79 for the nicotine standard. And that peak or that component at 5.79 in item 1 was identified as nicotine, and that peak at 5.79 in the nicotine standard was identified as nicotine.
And this also, the GCMS method, is a generally accepted method to analyze chemicals in the scientific community?
Yes, it is.
And did you do anything else under this method?
Not by GCMS, no.
Did you do any further dilution or testing?
No, I did not. I did take a photograph of the nicotine standard, eloquent of the nicotine standard.
I'm sorry, the court reporter, I'm sorry?
Eloquent, ALIQUOT. I feel like I'm in a spelling bee.
The reporter, thank you. The prosecutor, looking here at People 16, photograph B, can you tell us what is shown here?
As I said, I took this eloquent of the nicotine standard, put it in a test tube, and that is the test tube on the right-hand side. And the item 1 liquid is on the left-hand side. And that, again, going back to the beginning of my testimony, is the item 1 liquid that was removed from the syringe and placed into a clean test tube.
Is there any reason, given your experience, for the different coloration of both samples?
There can be a number of possibilities as to why there is a difference in the colors of those two specimens. The one on the left is a larger volume of liquid, which can make something appear darker if there's more volume to it. Also, with chemicals, they can undergo environmental effects, if you will, such as oxidation. So that's another possibility. They could be two totally different chemicals that would render them to be visually different.
Does the color in itself, is that an indicator of a purity or concentration of nicotine?
It can be, but again, there's so many factors that can go into explaining that. It can't be the be all and end all to it.
If a liquid such as nicotine in the syringe were exposed to conditions outside, let's say outside of a laboratory, like it's out on a balcony exposed to air, can that affect the color of the liquid?
Again, as I testified, environmental factors could have an effect on chemicals, liquid chemicals, solid chemicals, and how they appear visually.
After using these three methods to analyze the liquid from the syringe, what was your opinion as to the liquid from the syringe?
That nicotine is identified within the item 1 liquid.
And given the use of these three methods and the use of a 99% pure standard, do you have an opinion or any reasonable inferences as to the purity of the nicotine in the syringe?
The FBI laboratory does not quantify. It does not determine a value or a purity to a chemical, or whether it be methamphetamine, whether it can be an oil, what have you. That being said, provided that 99% nicotine standard is 99% pure, an inference can be made that because the dilution of 1 to 10,000 for the same sample and 1 to 10,000 for the nicotine standard that was analyzed contemporaneously with the same sample provided comparable results, meaning the magnitude of the response from the instrument, as well as the ion ratios that are present that were evaluated, that one can infer from that it has a purity of, say, approximately, 90 to 100%.
The sample from the syringe.
Correct.
And I had sent you a stipulation. I emailed you a stipulation where I had indicated to whether it would be appropriate to say that the sample from the syringe was consistent with the 99% purity standard. Do you remember that?
I do recall that, yes.
You indicated that that was not a proper language to use.
Correct.
And now you're here to explain what is the proper language to use.
Yes. That statement on its own, without some caveats and some explanations, I didn't feel comfortable agreeing to it.
And back on September 3rd, 2020, did you indicate to the FBI liaison for the LAPD that although it's not explicit in your report, the liquid from the syringe appears to be relatively pure nicotine?
I did.
And is that consistent with your testimony today?
Yes, it is.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. The court, Mr. Avila, thank you. Ms. Bernstein, cross-examination, please.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Avila, please.
Yes.
I know this is snooze fest, this part here. So I understand if you'd rather just come back for the recap. I'm not sure what time I'm going to have it ready to present to you. So please make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow the channel on Rumble. The testimony of the forensic scientist who tested the nicotine samples, unable by web or in person. So that's why this is being read into the record by a third party. And I understand that the prosecutor and the defense are reading their parts respectively. Thank you for joining me. It's Friday. We got a 3-4 day weekend.
Thank you. May I take my mask off again? The court, if that will help you, yes. Ms. Bernstein-Lev, thank you. The court, you're welcome. Cross-examination.
Okay, I don't understand
by
why
Ms.
they can't just
Bernstein-Lev.
take out that filler
Good
stuff.
afternoon, Dr.
but
Bradley.
I'm not
Good
an attorney.
afternoon.
I count beans.
How many times have you spoken with Mr. Avila during the course of your investigation in this case?
I would have to ballpark, but I would say perhaps 7 to 12 times.
Did you keep notes of those conversations?
Some of them, yes.
Do you know if those notes have been provided to the prosecution?
Any notes that were provided to the prosecution should have also been provided to the defense. I'm not sure if I'm answering that question correctly.
The notes that you have of telephone conversations, would those be handwritten or are those detailed in typewriting, lab notes? How would you memorialize those?
Those typically are in what is called our communication log, and those are generated through our, what we refer to as our Forensic Advantage Electronic 1/-A.
Okay, so that would indicate how many telephone calls you had with Mr. Avila.
Those would be the recorded notes that are associated with the telephone call with Mr. Avila.
Do you remember the last time you spoke with him about your results on the telephone?
I do not recall.
But you spoke to him in person about your results recently.
I spoke to him this morning about my results, yes.
Okay, did you speak to him in person prior to this morning?
No, today was the first day I met Mr. Avila.
Okay, now, you did only a qualitative test, not a quantitative test. Is that correct?
Correct.
What is the difference between a qualitative test and what it is determining and a quantitative test?
A qualitative test is identifying or characterizing a material. Let's make it simple and just be a liquid. Identifying or characterizing as best I can of that liquid versus saying that in that liquid, I have component A at a concentration of whatever percent, plus or minus some uncertainty value, and component B with a certain percentage with an uncertainty value, etc.
So what is it you've just described? You're talking about the quantitative.
As I explained, the qualitative would be the identify or characterize, characterizing again, being to the best of my ability if I can't identify. So component A is in item 1.
Right.
Whereas in quantitative, I would state that in item 1, I have component A at a certain percentage, plus or minus my measurement of uncertainty. Also, component B is present in item 1 at a certain concentration with plus or minus measurement of uncertainty, etc.
So is it safe to say that quantitative tests test for the, I just lost the word, for the quality, and the quality in terms of how much of a substance is in the test, the item that's being tested, as opposed to qualitative, which is just identifying an object or an unknown quantity?
Can you repeat that?
Sure.
Because I'm not sure if I can agree with what you just with just that.
Okay, so when you do a qualitative test, you're identifying what an unknown substance is. Is that correct?
Yes, or identifying what is present within the unknown specimen.
Okay.
So there's some extraneous materials that aren't necessarily important that we don't report on, okay?
Okay, but it's basically just to identify what something is when you do a qualitative test.
Identify what something is or identify what is present in a sample.
Okay, and then there are quantitative tests that determine the amounts, the actual amounts of what you call analytes in a substance. Is that correct?
Yes, as you said, a quantitative analysis is determining what is present and at what amounts, or we typically talk in percentages, because with chemicals, purity is an important factor. Like in drugs, if it's 100% pure or if it's 30% pure.
Do you know how many times you've tested a substance that is nicotine?
This is the first time that I've identified nicotine in a sample. That's not a true statement. I have identified nicotine in past analysis, but again, it wasn't necessarily important to the case. So just to give you an example, as I testified earlier, I analyzed bank security devices. So a bank security device is a device that is given to a bank robber during the commission of a bank robbery by a teller surreptitiously, so it's hidden as a stack of fake money. So that bank security device is made to go off when that device leaves the bank, and it explodes and gives off a red dye and also sometimes some tear gas. So the premise of the bank security device is to separate the bank robber from the money, or render the money so that they can't spend it, because now it's all dyed with red dye. So a bank security device may have gone off in a car. For example, you've got red dye present in the car, and that dye swabbing is sent into the lab for analysis. I may identify nicotine in that specimen just because that person was driving. A person in that vehicle may have smoked cigarettes, and so I might identify nicotine. But that's not important to the case, so I'm not going to report it.
All right, but would it be fair to say this is the first time you've worked with liquid nicotine?
Yes, it is.
And have you ever seen liquid nicotine before it's touched the air?
No, I have not.
Do you know if pure liquid nicotine is a clear substance, colorless substance?
I do not know whether it is or not. I only have a reference standard to go by, but obviously that's been exposed to air.
Okay, the reference standard that you received, where did you receive that from again?
We have it in a reference collection at the FBI laboratory.
Do you know how it's stored?
It is just stored in a cabinet.
So, all right. So I've just put up the reference sample, which was previously marked as People's 16C and is now Oh, it's okay. What's the number?
People's 24.
Which is now People's 24.
Page C.
Page C. Do you know whether this reference sample had ever been opened prior to you opening it?
I don't know firsthand. I could speculate that it was opened prior to me using it, because typically with the chemicals that we have, if they're not open, they'll have a plastic seal around the cap, and that wasn't the case in this case.
All right. And do you know how long the laboratory has had this particular item which you used as a standard?
I do not know.
So it could be 5 years.
It could be.
Could it be 10 years?
It could be.
So this sample could have degraded over time. Line 2 and 3, then page 73?
Yes, line 23 of page 72.
I don't know whether it is degraded or not.
Court, very quickly, how do you interpret the term degrade?
Degrade in this context, I would say a breakdown in the integrity of the material.
The court, thank you.
You're welcome.
By Ms. Bernstein-Lev. And if the integrity of the material broke down, then it could be less than the 99% purity that is on the label.
That is correct.
Now, you said the FBI does not do quantitative tests.
If I said that, that was kind of a broad brush reply.
You were not asked to do a quantitative test, correct?
Correct. And the discipline that I am in, which is general chemistry, does not quantify. But for example, our toxicology group does quantify. So I apologize if that was a bit broad of an answer and not specific to my discipline.
Thank you. So if the request had been made, so if the request had been for a quantitative analysis, it would have gone to someplace else in the FBI and not to you.
No, I would have had a communication with the contributor, which in this case was the FBI field office in LA, the agent there, and I would explain to her that our group does not quantify. And if they were looking for a quantitation, they would have to submit the sample to another laboratory. It would go to another unit or subunit or discipline in the FBI lab for this analysis.
So no matter how the LAPD initiated a request to the FBI for a quantitative test, the FBI would never do a quantitative test?
They would ask for that, but they would have to get that analysis done at a different laboratory.
A different FBI laboratory?
No, at a different laboratory.
So the FBI would not do a quantitative test for the Los Angeles Police Department on this particular item?
That is correct.
All right. Are you familiar with, I assume you are familiar with, the Laboratory Operations Manual and Standard Operating Procedures, which include the FBI approved standards for testimony and report language utilized by the chemistry unit?
Yes.
And you're aware that the defense was supplied with a copy of that?
Yes.
And as outlined in the chemistry unit, FBI approved standards for scientific testimony and report language for general chemistry. Do you know that it says, quote, an examiner may not report the purity of a chemical, but can state his or her opinion about an estimated concentration of a chemical as long as it is clearly stated that the estimate is not the result of a validated quantitative measurement?
Yes.
Now, in order to do you know how one would go about doing a validated quantitative measurement for an item that by the library had been identified as nicotine?
I'm generally aware, but because we do not have methods that are quantitative, I may miss a step in the validated procedure, if that makes sense.
Do you know what a lethal dose of nicotine is?
I do not.
Were you aware that the LAPD had analyzed the liquid that was in item 1 prior to you receiving it?
I don't know if I knew that when I first received it or not. I don't recall.
Did you later become aware of that?
No.
So you have no knowledge of any testing done by the LAPD on this particular item?
As I stated, I may have known in the beginning of back in July of 2020, but I don't recall.
What is cotinine?
I do not know.
Do you know what the metabolites of nicotine are?
Not off the top of my head, no.
And you did not do any testing of the control that appears up on the screen right now to see whether or not it was, in fact, 99% pure. Is that correct?
I did not test the purity of the nicotine standard because, again, our group at the FBI laboratory does not do quantitation. So the number was not verified.
And you cannot say that either the standard that you used or the contents of item 1 contained 99% purity nicotine. Is that correct?
I cannot. That's correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
The court, Ms. Bernstein-Lev, thank you. Ms. Chavela, I have no questions. The court redirect Ms. Chavela. Ms. Chavela, no, Your Honor. The court May Dr. Bradley be excused by the people? Mr. Avila, yes. The court, by the defense?
Yes.
The witness?
Thank you.
The court, Dr. Bradley, I want to thank you for your testimony. Please do not discuss it or the facts of this case with any other witnesses in the case until we finish the hearing. Please sit down carefully. You are excused and may leave.
Thank you for your help. Appreciate it. All right,
Your Honor, I have in my hand a one-page document. It's a photograph.
all right.
It's People's 25. It's a different syringe. Each has a lab number on photograph on top. 2020-00954, number 2, item 2 as received, and then a separate photograph at the bottom that indicates item 2 as received, close-up of the cap. Without being marked as people's number 25 for identification.
Yes, Mark.
We have a stipulation. This will be marked as people's number 26, if I may read it into the record.
Yes.
The people in the defense stipulate that Dr. Maureen J. Bradley, an experienced forensic examiner and chemist with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, be deemed called as a witness, sworn to testify truthfully, and qualified as an expert in the chemical analysis of substances. That she would testify that on or about August 23rd, 2021, she was in receipt of a syringe identified by the Los Angeles Police Department as item number 13 for DR number 2006-06220. Dr. Bradley identified the syringe as item 2 for the FBI laboratory number 2020-00954. Dr. Bradley took photographs of this syringe as depicted on People's Exhibit number 25. Dr. Bradley then conducted a series of laboratory and chemical tests on item 2 syringe and residue within the syringe.
Whatever you do, do it for less at Harbor Freight. Quality tools, lowest prices.
And cap of item 2 were rinsed with methanol. Residues of delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, were identified in the methanol rinse of item 2. So stipulated? Thank you.
People stipulate as well?
Yes.
Okay, court will accept the stipulation.
People's number 27 has 2 stipulations. The first one is the FBI returned to the LAPD the syringe that they had identified under FBI laboratory number 2020-00954 as item 1 and 2 vials related to the analysis of that syringe. The FBI returned to the LAPD the syringe that they have identified under FBI laboratory number 2020-00954 as item 2. So stipulated? So stipulated.
Prosecution as well?
Yes.
Court will accept that stipulation.
People call Officer Physic to the stand.
All right. What's the license?
FICUK.
Okay, thank you. Officer, if you would approach the witness stand. If you could face my my clerk there, please. Thank you.
Right now, you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Please state and spell both your first and last name.
My name is Daniel Feisik, spelled D-A-N-I-E-L. Last name Feisik, F-I-C-E-K.
Okay, this guy I have not seen. I wonder if he's the guy that showed up that has the body cam footage of Michael. Thank you for joining me. I did record almost everything we've seen already. Yesterday I watched it, but I've been back here vetting to see if what I watched was what they were putting on this morning. And it appears it is. But this part was not played. So I hope you're having a wonderful day. And just a reminder, this is yesterday's testimony because the footage is being released the day after per the judge. Court TV does air bits and pieces of it. And must have been a sidebar. Yesterday when we watched the video, it did look like they had audited it pretty good. Edited it pretty good. But like I said, it's being released the morning after, in this fashion. The court does not have any testimony today, which is Friday, September 1st.
All right, counsel.
Can you please tell the jury
So
what
the
it is
court
that you
has a
heard?
4-day weekend.
I'm a police
which
officer for the Los Angeles Police
mean,
Department.
The next testimony in the
years have
court
you
will
been a
be
police
Tuesday,
officer?
but the footage will not be
Approximately
released
6.
until Wednesday, FYI.
I want to draw your attention back to the date of February 15, 2020. What was your assignment on that date?
I was assigned to Hollywood Watch 3 Patrol. 6 Adam 15 was my unit designation.
And what does that mean that you were assigned to Hollywood Patrol?
Basically, I handle radio calls in a specific area within the Hollywood Hills area.
And did you receive a call sometime around 1:14 in the morning?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what was the information that you received?
The radio call read as a screaming woman.
And did you have a partner that day?
I did.
And did the call provide you with any other information other than a screaming woman?
From what I recall, no, it was just a screaming woman at a residence.
And did they give you an address to go to?
Yes, I did.
And where were you when you first received this call?
I was at Hollywood Station.
And approximately how far is that from 2086 Mound Street?
I would say approximately 4 to 5 miles.
So how did you get to 2086 Mound Street?
I don't remember my exact route of travel, but we did use GPS. It gets confusing in the hills.
Did it take you a few minutes to get up there?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
During the time of night, it was there's a lot of twists and turns up in the Hollywood Hills. And initially we did not use GPS because we believed we knew how to get there. And when we took a wrong turn, we used navigation to get there correctly.
And did you have a body-worn video camera on your person?
Yes, sir.
Did you activate it?
Yes, sir.
Did you activate it on the way to 2086 Mound Street?
Yes, sir.
And have you been able to review the recording of that body-worn video?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I have here a DVD labeled Officer Physic, dated February 15, 2020. That this be by People's Next in Order number 28.
What?
And I have a transcript. It is
Okay, so yes, this will be the body cam footage of the officers arriving after Michael
transcript. It is marked as 328A.
was able to find somebody with a phone to call 911. He couldn't find his own phone and then waffled whether he should take one of his knives he had in his room. He did not have a gun. And then he decided not to do that because he didn't want 2 people to be murdered. So he ran around, knocked on one neighbor's door. They didn't answer. He ran across the street and then ran into somebody on the road that had a phone that he was able to call 911. So this officer is one of the responding officers to that 911 call. And it appears we are going to be watching the body cam footage of them responding. It sounds like they got a little lost. I'm not sure how much time that shaved off. It does appear that she was attacked around 1:02 a.m. The footage of the roommate Michael knocking on the neighbor's door was approximately 1:08 p.m. So 6 minutes later, at approximately 1:11 a.m. is when Gareth is caught on the neighbor's ring cam leaving the property. And now off the top of my head, I can't remember what time the 911 call was. And I'm not sure if he said exactly what time they got there. So that's what's going on.
Permission to play the recording, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll stop it every few minutes just to ask you what's going on, okay?
Yes, sir.
I should take a quick rose. I didn't. Probably want to activate it again. And then you're gonna make a right on Longview, I think. Yeah, right. Should be coming up. This is it.
sound is going to be on the first right. Yep. 250, we're good. 2086. I think it's going to be up here. Yes, sir. How can I help you?
I'm going to pause it right here at 1 minute and 6 seconds of the video. Now, do you see the date at the very top corner? It's 2/15/2020.
Yes, sir.
Is that the correct date when this video is being recorded?
Yes, sir.
And now it says, as far as the time, it says 09:25 and 27. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know why it gives that time?
We implemented a new body-worn video system since the time of this video, and during this time of the body-worn video, we were on Greenwich Village Mean Time, which is an atomic time zone.
So it's from that particular time zone, you have to calculate what that time would be in Los Angeles.
Correct, which is 7 hours ahead.
So then would this be 1:25 in the morning?
Correct.
So instead of that 9, you have that 1. It would be 1:25 in the morning.
Correct.
I'm going to continue playing the recording.
I know it. I heard it. She's screaming. She's thrown to the ground. I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't find anything.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so you have access to here?
No,
Is there anybody else inside the house?
My roommate.
Just your roommate by yourself?
Yes. Dude, I heard screaming. I don't know if that guy had a gun or a knife. I came running I couldn't find my phone or
So is there somebody else inside?
Yes. So I think there's
Okay, sir, do me a favor. Do me a favor. Calm down. Calm down. Other than your roommate, is there anybody else inside the house?
I don't know. So you didn't see anything? No, I just heard her screaming.
Have you called?
I threw him to the ground. I've been calling for her. There's windows open. He's answering nothing.
Yeah, let's get an additional unit.
It's not building search.
Yeah, I know, but
Maybe we can if you want.
Yeah,
but
just-
we're gonna go in there.
yeah, I know. 615, can I get an additional unit for small business?
So you were essentially locked out. Yes. I mean, I can hop the fence, but I mean, my keys were left in the house. I was in the middle of a sleep.
So why is this? Why can't we get in here?
Because it's locked. Because she came home and
Listen, sir. You need to relax a little bit so that we can get all the information, okay?
Okay.
So how are we going to get it? How are you planning on getting back in here?
I don't know. I guess hopping the fence and getting my keys.
Let me stop it right there.
I hopped the fence and I cut myself on that.
Just before we move on, looking at page 5, line 4, did this gentleman tell you that he heard screaming? It sounded like she got thrown to the ground.
Yes.
I continue to play the recording.
So you hopped the fence to get out.
I wonder how much they're screwing around here.
I couldn't find. I'm in the middle of
She was
sleep.
still, she was struggling to live.
I don't know if he's got a weapon or what. I'm trying to knock on neighbors' doors. Nobody's answering. I don't have a phone. He was walking by. And I had to take some toothbrush from here, right? Go on. We don't have a lot of time. I mean, you want all your stuff in there, but I was supposed to get in.
Well, sir, so how are we supposed to gain entry into this place?
I guess hop the fence with me. We'll go around back. The back door's open. Let's go.
So where's your key at?
Inside, downstairs. The back door's open.
So you came out and came up this way?
Yes.
Hey, partner, we're gonna have to jump it. We're trying to find a better place that we can jump it. How long ago did you last hear from her? We're gonna have to go right here. You hold this. Dude, this is.
lot more gear than what you're wearing. Well, that'd be great if we can get. Nice. Yeah. Can you nice cut? Can you cut that? No. I just can't see where my footing is going. Sir, can you wait a second? I'm waiting for my partner. You need to calm down. Yeah, here, hand me yours too. Yeah. It's like impossible. Watch out, there's a tree above you. With your head. Use it as a branch if you need to. Don't use this as a solid. Here. You're good. You're good. 16:15. Advise the responding from the studio to hop the fence. We're going to be at the rear of the location.
You can pause it right there at 6 minutes and 10 seconds. At this point, you say on line 26 of page 7, 6815 advised the responding units that we had to hop the fence. We're going to be in the rear of the location. Who are you providing that information to?
To the additional unit that we requested, as well as any supervisors that were responding to the location.
As well as what?
As well as any supervisors that were responding to the location.
And when you met Mr. Michael Herman, who's on the video, how would you describe his appearance?
He was disheveled. He also had his shirt. He was wearing a white shirt with blood stains on the lower abdomen of the t-shirt, as well as like his chest as well.
Okay, did that cause you any concern?
I was concerned, yes.
How so?
Because we had very limited information based on the radio comments or the comments of the radio call. So we get there and he's saying that he lives inside, but no way to access it, and he has blood all over his shirt, and but no way to access the house. He's saying he lives there, no identification. So we were being cautious.
Let's continue playing the recording. Thank you.
Sir, come here. Come here. Relax. Take a seat. Take a seat. What was going on tonight?
I've been asleep all night.
Do you know if there's anybody else inside the house?
No, I don't. What happened to you?
Pause it. Can I pause the video at 6 minutes and 44 seconds? Who's the person that appears to be leaning over what appears to be a body there on the concrete?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, there appears to be another man leaning over what appears to be the body of someone on the patio. Who's that other person that's leaning in asking questions?
That's my partner, Luke Edney.
I'm sorry?
Luke Edney, Officer Edney.
That's what we see on the video there?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Where's your room?
Right here.
This is your room?
Yes.
Stay here. Listen to me. You need to relax. Okay, you're escalating the situation. You're making it worse for everybody. You need to calm down. Hey, we need to, Where's she's having a seizure? Oh, Jesus.
I paused it at 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Is that your voice saying she's having a seizure?
Yes, sir.
So tell the jury, because we can't see it on the body one. What did you observe at that point?
So I observed her head was tilted to the left, and her head was kind of tucked under her left shoulder, and she had very shallow breaths. There was also blood coming from her mouth, and her eyes were somewhat rolled back into her head.
And you mentioned the word seizure. What did you see in that regard?
Those symptoms are sometimes consistent with someone having a seizure. With oftentimes when someone has a seizure, they bite their tongue and blood comes out of their mouth.
Okay. Oh, have you ever seen someone have a seizure?
Yes.
How many times?
Well over 30 times.
Okay, I'll allow the fact that it appeared that she was having a seizure. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll allow it like that.
Did she respond to you or your partner when you were asking her questions?
No, sir.
Play the video.
So it's inside here? We gotta get these keys. Where are the keys at?
Pause it. Now pause it at 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Why do you have your guns drawn at this point?
Based on the information provided by the gentleman who lived there, Mrs. Harwick's roommate, stating that there might be someone upstairs, and just the totality of the circumstances. Tactically, we wanted to render the house safe prior to doing anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna hold up here. Take a seat. You told me to stand over here. All right, I'm gonna hold. Go get that open, okay? I'm gonna. Okay. Yeah. We have an ambulance in route, okay? Do me a favor, take a seat.
Pause it. Now I paused it at 8 minutes and 20 seconds. At what point did you request paramedics or an ambulance?
My partner at the time requested an ambulance within seconds of contacting Mrs. Harwick.
Thank you.
Anyone else inside this LAPD, come out with your hands up. Hey, somebody pat him down, please. All right, somebody needs to stay with her, and then we need to clear this house. I hear voices, but I can't tell if it's TV or not. Yeah, I already did. Yeah, somebody needs to stay with them. Yeah. Hey, anyone else inside? It's LAPD. Come out with your hands up.
Pause
All right, guys. Hey, so who's coming?
I paused it at 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Just looking back at line 17 of the transcript, you stated, I hear voices, but I can't tell if it's a TV or not. What did you mean by that?
Based on my point of view, I heard echoing of voices coming from inside the house, but they were very low and mumbled. So I was just trying to use my senses to identify any other threats inside the house.
Did you eventually make it into Mr. Herman's room?
I did.
And was the TV on in that room?
It was.
Okay, so I'm gonna be contact. Yeah. You're gonna be arresting team, okay, partner? You're gonna be less than lethal when it comes to it, okay? No, not yet. And you're gonna be communications also, okay? Ready? These two rooms are clear already. I hear voices, but I can't tell. I got an open room. There's a balcony to the top. Got couches. Looks like a kitchen to the right. Okay, so I'm gonna turn right. Partner, you come with me. Hey, podcast, you cover this side, okay? You cover straight ahead. Got it? I'm going. Hey, be advised, there's a lot of dummies. All right, let's do this. Hey, Cornel, come with us, dude. You guys hold that, okay? Or podcast, you hold that. Sweeney, come with us, okay? All right. We got a doorway to the right that goes to the kitchen, and to the left. So we're gonna go right. Sweeney, you hold left, okay? All right. Kitchen. It loops around. It's gonna go down to the staircase. It goes out back outside, back down to them.
All right. We paused it at 10 minutes and 55 seconds. Do you see a door there at that point?
Yes, sir.
And is that a door from the kitchen leading towards the outside?
Yes, sir.
And is that door open?
Yes.
Did you open that door?
No, sir.
Did any police officers open that door?
No, sir.
So when you first see that door is open.
Yes, sir.
And it seems like it's wide open.
Correct.
Yeah. Hey, blue. Sir, do you see me? All right. Oh, we got to clear this corner. All right. Yeah, it's open. All right, this goes around to the front. All right, let's go up there, clear it, and go back to podcast TV. All right. Really? He said he heard her screaming, right? You guys are going straight, okay? Got it. Come on, you sweet. Got you. Podcast, you sure light? No. Right here. Yeah, it's not less than that. Okay. All right, so you guys can move up in unison. Yeah. Ready? On you guys. Just hold it. They're gonna move up in unison. You're good, podcast. Whenever you guys are ready, go ahead. Go, buddy. Yeah, that's what it seems like. You hold that. We'll get this. I got you. And then, looking clear with. That's super nice. It's clear here. You see it? Oh, jeez. Oh, we haven't cleared the whole house yet. Oh, yeah. He's holding another.
Positive at 13 minutes and 40 seconds. You went into the balcony at that point. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you see anything on the balcony?
I did.
Can you tell the jury what you saw?
I saw a syringe with a dark brown liquid.
You want to have 3 photographs here. I guess we mark people's next in order.
29.
29A, B, and C. Looking here at people's 29A. I recognize what's shown there.
Yes.
What is that?
That is the same syringe that I observed.
And is it on this photograph, is it in the same location where you first observed it?
Yes.
Looking at photograph 29B, is that a close-up of that same syringe?
It is.
And looking at photograph C, is that even more of a close-up?
Yes, sir.
And the way it looks here on C, the color of the liquid was not the color that you observed that morning.
Yes, sir.
And what did you think it was when you first observed it?
Objection, relevant, speculation.
You can answer that.
I believed it to be black tar heroin.
Have you seen heroin like that before?
Something similar, yes, sir.
All right.
And then when it's continue to play there.
Hey, partner, there's a full I gotta go to the right, multiple calls to the right. All right. To the left and then I'll go left.
I'm sorry to pause it. You're telling your partner there's a full what?
Syringe. I was trying to express to him that there was a syringe because he hadn't made it up to the balcony. So I was expressing it to him.
And what were you saying was full?
The syringe.
Oh, yeah.
Got this door. Ready? I'm gonna open it. Ready? Clear. You can go for it. You guys hear me? Is that over? No. This was here before. Looks like urine, dude.
Pause it. All right. Pause it at 14 minutes and 21 seconds. You say looks like urine. What did tell the jury what you actually observed?
I observed a semi-dried puddle of what I believe to be urine due to the stickiness and the color just outside the bathroom and partly in the bathroom. And due to the smell as well, I believed it to be urine.
Objection, speculation, foundation.
He said he believed it to be. He didn't say conclusively. Didn't state that it was urine.
So based on the smell, you believed it to be urine?
Yes, sir.
Was there liquid also there?
Yes, sir.
And also you said it was sticky also.
Correct.
So in your lay opinion, you believed it to be urine?
Yes, sir.
Hey, partner, come here. Right here. Might be attempt suicide. See, it is. Oh, dude. So.
Has it? Why did you say in that part it might be a suicide?
Because I believe that to be some sort of controlled substance. I believe that she was possibly taking it and under the influence and possibly tried to end her life by jumping off the balcony.
Okay. That was your belief at that time?
Yes, sir, initially.
And your basis for that belief was just the limited information you had at that point?
Correct, sir.
It's a code 4 for now, sir. Yeah. Yeah. We're yeah. Next one. He hasn't seen me. He didn't know he was here. All I heard was a shout. You hear a shout. A sheet fall. So right now, all we have is an impossible attempt suicide. It's just sketching me out. Yeah, but you said that you thought you heard something, right? No, I thought I heard voices. Well, how often do you think you hear voices? Ransackers? Yeah, I mean, we're locked still inside. That door does, but the side gates are all locked, and they lock out and in. So you have to jump in to get out. You're all like, I mean, we searched this place up and down, so. don't think she's just breathing. Yeah, it sounded like she was seizing. I know, dude. He started like he was getting on my nerves, dude. Well, because what was tripping me out was because of the blood he had on him. Hey, so there's a so there's a ridge on this right here. It's on that side. It's on the a loaded syringe. So, sir, do you know her history of drug use? No, she's sober. She doesn't drink. She doesn't drink. She doesn't drink. She doesn't even drink. She's sober. So nobody in this house is doing drugs. I smoke pot and stuff. Yeah. Okay. What do you mean that stuff? Smoke pot. That's it. Okay. So she's sober completely. She's sober completely. How sure of that are you? I'm positive. I'm absolutely sure. What is she? Just a roommate? She's my roommate. How long have you known her? A year maybe. A year? Yeah. I think she lived with her best friend. That's how we got that. So when you said you heard, did you hear other people's voices? No, no voices. It just sounded like she was being handled. Like I wasn't sure if it was more than one person, but I just didn't want two of us dead here, so I ran to go get some help. Couldn't find a weapon. Couldn't find anything. Like we talked about me getting a weapon because she saw somebody that she was had a restraining order against. She said that she didn't, but she felt like they were shot down.
Pause it right there. I paused it at 16 minutes and 39 seconds. Now, the body of Miss Amie Harwick, she's still there on the patio, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated that she, at one point, that she was breathing barely.
Yes.
And so why aren't any of you rendering some aid to her at that point?
Due to the initial belief of her falling or jumping off of the balcony, and based on how her positioning was, it appeared to be like a severe neck injury or a severe spine injury.
Again, if you're going to step a second.
Yes. Now, are you trained to look, to arrive at certain situations and determine whether someone needs your aid as a police officer?
Yes, sir.
And are you trained also to see if someone has been injured?
Yes, sir.
And are you trained to provide first aid whenever possible?
Yes, sir.
And as part of that training, could you recognize when someone has sustained certain types of injuries?
Yes, sir.
And did you use that experience this time to do just a basic evaluation of Ms. Harwick of whether you could touch her or not?
Yes, sir.
And so what was it that you did?
We decided to not move her due to the belief that it would possibly injure her further due to our belief of a neck or spine injury.
And what led you to believe, and based on your training, that she had some type of spine or neck injury?
Based on the way that her body was positioned, the way that her neck and shoulders were positioned.
Can you describe that a little more for the jury? Because it's not, you can't really see it on the video. But
yes, sir. So her shoulder, her chin was tucked underneath her left shoulder very tightly, which is uncommon. Her shoulders were rolled.
Your Honor, this is outside of this background training experience.
Okay, just describe what you saw. Was her neck was, you said was under her left shoulder?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Go ahead.
Her chin was tucked underneath her left shoulder very tightly, with her shoulders rolled forward. And we believed initially to be a neck injury based on that.
You continue to play the recording.
Do you have an ID on you, boss? No, it's in my house. What's your name? Michael Herman. Herman.
Herman?
Yeah, H-E-R-M-A-N.
Does it?
First name?
Michael.
Now, I paused it at 19 minutes and 09 seconds. There appear to be some now other individuals that are wearing yellow pants.
Yes, sir.
Who are they?
That is the rescue ambulance, sir.
Thank you.
Do you know your driver's license number?
No.
You have
Here, I want to drop this license.
Okay, but it's inside here, right? We can get it. What's the home address here?
2086 9th Street. You gotta be kidding me, dude. My kids are laying on the ground over there, like fucking, you don't want me to relax. Yeah.
How tall are you?
5'6".
What's your weight?
145.
Date of birth?
4/13/73.
What's the phone number?
704-340.
Slow down just for me. 704?
340.
340?
3063.
Did she have a boyfriend or anything like that?
She doesn't have a boyfriend. She's been going on dates.
I was also wondering why the officers just kind of ignored her laying on the ground gasping for her last breaths. Also, I think they're treating this Michael roommate a little hostilely. It's my opinion. Oh no, what happened here? Oh, they ended it 21 seconds ago. What the heck is that? Where did it go? Let's read the chat over here. I thought maybe they cut the video because he was giving out like all of his personal information. Weird. Law and crime experienced. What does this say? Addi. So Addi is the moderator over on Law and Crime. Law and Crime experienced considerable tech issues with the video feed showing the last witness's testimony. Will upload the footage once the issue is solved. For that reason, today's live stream will end early. Okay, well, I guess that's it for today. All right. I had actually watched, so as I have mentioned before, the judge ordered that this footage cannot be released live, but then now it kind of appeared that Court TV was airing footage yesterday after we were done, and so I just started doing screen records off of that, and that was most of Michael's remaining testimony. I got all of his cross-examination, and then that back and forth on the record reading of the forensic scientist who tested the nicotine syringes and for some reason could not be there to testify in person or via webcam, cause undetermined. So because I was doing screen recordings, I didn't do my recap yesterday of my witnesses. So we're going to end for now. It's been a little over 3 hours. And then I'll work on the recap for week 1. So days 1 through 3 of the Gareth Pursehouse murder trial for the murder of this beautiful woman in the corner, Dr. Amie Harwick. It's just tragic and senseless. And then if they do have the footage then from the remaining body cam, that'll have to be uploaded in a separate part B. So for now, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. And we'll be seeing you for a recap later. I'll probably do it live, I'm guessing. I just want to run the video through some of this new software I bought and see if it will do what it's supposed to do, which is just pull out the bits and sauce. All right, have a wonderful day. And it is Labor Day weekend. Again, there is no testimony today, Friday, September 1st. So, and again, the video is coming out on a 1-day delay. So we're actually watching yesterday's testimony. So, there will be a 4-day weekend for the court, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Court will resume on Tuesday. And again, because of the delay, the next video footage for this will be next Wednesday. So I hope you have a beautiful day and a nice long holiday weekend. And last weekend of summer for the kids. I know my triplet girls are starting their senior year of college or high school. So Crime Spies here can't believe that all 4 kids are going to be graduated in, what, like 9 months. That's just crazy. All right, have a great day.
Please remember, we're supposed to like and follow and share and comment below to help people like me grow our channel. I do appreciate it, although I'm starting to think it's kind of bullshit.